What's up, wood nerds? Welcome back. I'm glad to see you. I'm Tyler, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made a freaking sweet concrete top nightstand. The best thing about this project is it's a lot easier than you think, and even better, it costs less than $25. Let's check it out.
Your smile can't disguise.
Alright nerds, let's talk about materials. I went down to my local home improvement store and spent $9 on wood. I got 3 1x4 boards, they're 8 feet long. I also spent $11 on chicken wire. I'm sure you can probably find this on like Craigslist or something for cheaper. And I got concrete. A big bag like this, 60 pounds, high strength, cost me only like $4 or $5. Total, we're looking at less than 25 bucks. Now that we have our materials, let's get started. I'm gonna start with the concrete top. It takes about 2 days for concrete to cure completely, and in the meantime, I can start constructing the base.
All right, nerds, first things first. If we're gonna be pouring our concrete out, we need to make sure it's on a level surface. I'm using a whiteboard instead of a regular melamine board that you would buy from a home improvement store. Next on our list is chicken wire. It comes from the factory in a cylinder like this and wants to retain that shape when you unwrap it. It's important that we flatten this chicken wire out so the edges don't protrude through the sides of our concrete top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bend it in the opposite direction, and that should help. Once it's nice and flat, let's measure and cut it with some snips. You want to make sure that it's at least an inch shorter than each side of your mold. My mold's 15 inches by 15 inches, so I'm going to make this 13 inches by 13 inches. I use these cheap mega blocks to build the mold. You can find these for next to nothing on Craigslist or even at garage sales. They're very handy to keep around if you're working with concrete. After figuring out your desired dimensions, build your mold. My mold's 15 by 15 inches. I'm going to be using hot glue to hold it in place during this process. Before running my hot glue, I made a little template to mark how deep I want my concrete to lay. I made 2 measurements. One at 2 inches, which is the thickness I want my top, and then one at 1 inches where I want to lay my chicken wire. To hold my mold in place, I used about 1 glue stick per side of the mold. And as you can see, it holds pretty good. I used a caulking gun to run a bead of silicone all the way around and up my mold. Something to consider at this point is the texture on the mold. If you want your top to come out completely smooth on the sides, run some silicone and smooth it out using a trowel into all the crevices of the mold. This way, your end result will be completely smooth on all sides. After running the silicone, I used the back end of a Sharpie marker to run along the seam. This separates the excess silicone from the seam, which you can clean up after it hardens later. It's also helpful to keep a rag handy so you can wipe the end of the marker off after each run through the silicone. Once the silicone is dry, it's easily peeled away from the mold and the surface that the mold rests on. This is where a dark colored silicone would come in handy, as you'd be able to easily see it on the surface and the mold. After removing the silicone, I wiped the mold down really well with rubbing alcohol. Alright nerds, fun time. Let's add some water to this bucket. Follow the mixing instructions that come with your particular type of concrete. And as you notice, I'm going to be adding some dye to mine. I chose black because I want my top to be a little bit darker than normal. After the water and dye, if you choose to use so, add the concrete slowly. I used about 1/3 of a bag, which filled up about 1/3 of a bucket. I highly recommend you use a particle mask to ensure that you don't breathe in any of the concrete particles. It'd be very bad for your lungs. As you can see here, I'm using a garden shovel and a post shovel to stir the concrete with. If you have a big concrete stirring drill, that would be better. Make sure you stir thoroughly. Also, pay attention to how much water you're using. I could have definitely used another spray of water with this batch. Alright, it's time to pour. I suggest adding little bits at a time to ensure that you meet that halfway mark so that you can add the chicken wire. After you pour, spread around evenly. Use the marks that you made to help guide you into an evenly spread top. Remember, the halfway mark is where you want to stop before you add the chicken wire. Add the chicken wire in, make sure that it's flat, and also that it's at least an inch away from each of the sides. After adding the chicken wire, pour more concrete on top. Remember, use the marks to guide the amount that you need to pour. Use a trowel to flatten the concrete to ensure a smooth, even surface. After the concrete is laid and smoothed out, use something to vibrate the surface that the concrete rests on. I'm using a Makita palm sander underneath the surface to vibrate all of the air bubbles out of the concrete. You don't have to use a sander though. You could simply shake the table and vibrate it, and this should help get the air bubbles out. As I do this, you can actually see the air bubbles popping at the surface of the concrete. To help the concrete retain moisture during its curing process, I taped a garbage bag over the top of the mold. I also added tape along the bottom portion to ensure water didn't leak out through that section.
You see, nerds, the concrete top wasn't that hard. Now all we have to do is wait. While that's curing, follow me out back, let's cut some wood. That was a lot of fun, and I love those power tools. This is what I came back with. I've got 4 boards at 24 inches, 5 boards at 12 inches, 2 boards at 11 and 9/16, and 3 boards at 6 inches. Follow me, let's put these babies together.
Alright nerds, for boards that the end meets another board, I always apply glue twice. The first application I push in with my thumb, the ends of boards are porous, and that first application ends up getting sucked into the wood. The second application sits on top of the first application in the wood, creating a stronger bond. For this first section, I used that tool that I got from Harbor Freight. It's supposed to help boards sit at a right angle while you manipulate them. However, the rod in this case ended up being a problem for me. I used a second tool that I ended up getting from Harbor Freight for a lot cheaper, and this one in this instance worked a lot better. For this section, I'll be joining 2 24-inch boards by a 12-inch board. And I'm doing this with using 4 finishing nails on each side. Repeat this process and create an identical setup for the other side. This is going to be for the front and rear of our stand. Don't forget to clean up the wood glue. I'll be staining this project later on, and if I leave any wood glue behind, it'll definitely show with the stain. To join the front and back together, I'll be using the 11 and 9/16 inch board that we cut earlier. I'll be joining it on the inside of the 24-inch boards, creating the left and right side of our stand. I highly recommend using a clamp here rather than your hands like I did. The nail gun can be unpredictable. If the wood is soft, the nail may penetrate further than you intend. If you don't have clamps, I would suggest doing what I did here and placing a board behind the original board to add just a little bit of extra space to help keep your fingers safe. Do the same to the other side and then join both halves together using the same techniques. I'll be creating pocket holes using this jig to hold the shelf together for the bottom portion of this stand. The first process using this jig is clamp to the underside of each board that you'll be joining and drill 2 holes. Here I'll be joining 3 6-inch boards to 2 12-inch boards. The holes go in the 6-inch boards only. To fasten down these screws, I have a specific bit that's used for pocket hole screws. Make sure the power on your drill is set low. I show here that I set it at 8. In reality, I dialed it down a little bit to 6 or 4. Add some glue to your boards, make sure you clamp them the best you can, and then screw them in. I spaced in between each board 3/4 inch, or the same thickness as one of these boards. For the opposite side, because the clamp won't fit in between all the boards, I just used one longer board to clamp in between to keep everything flat. Now that the lower shelf is complete, slide it in place. Don't be discouraged if the legs aren't exactly straight. That's one of the reasons why we built this shelf. I used a little block spacer to make sure that all sides of the shelf were the same distance from the bottom. Now that it's all assembled, I want a real rustic, older, beat up look, so I grabbed a bunch of random crap I had laying around and started hitting the wood. It looks like I'm being really light on the wood, but I promise you it's making dents and scratches. I used a hammer, a bar, some tubing, a knife, and a bolt with some threads that actually gave a really cool look. After beating the stand up for a little bit, I wanted to make sure that there was no sharp edges or splinters left over, so I used this sanding block on all the surfaces. We're almost done, nerds, only a few steps left. I'm going to apply some wood filler to all the nail holes left from the nail gun. If I hadn't used so many, I would have just left them, but there's quite a bit in this project. All you have to do is get a little bit on your finger, smear it into the holes, and once it dries, sand it all off. Just like wood glue, wood filler will show through if you plan on staining, so keep that in mind. I used 100 grit sandpaper to make quick work of the wood filler. At this point, it would be a good time to sand up any edges that aren't completely flush, and after you're all done, clean up your workspace. Next, we're going to be applying pre-stain treatment. I use this minwax pre-stain treatment on all of my wood projects that I stain. It really makes sure that there's no blotchiness when you apply stain to the wood. And since I'm going to be staining the entire stand, I'll be applying pre-stain on all of it. After the pre-stain, you guessed it, stain. I'll be using minwax red mahogany for this project. I'm a big fan of the dark red color that this gives the wood. The last step for the base is a post-stain treatment or sealer. I'll be using minwax polyurethane clear satin. This is my personal favorite for projects like this. It seals the wood without leaving it too shiny. Now that we're done with the polyurethane, let's check on the top. Looks cured enough to handle. It's been 2 days at this point. All we have to do is remove the mold. Mine came off very easy. Remember in the beginning when I mentioned the texture on the mold? Here it is. I left it knowing that it would be a little bit more rugged looking, and that was exactly what I was going for with this project. Wet the concrete down and use a sanding block to get rid of any of the sharp edges and some of that extra texture on the side if you left it like I did. I used a cleaning wheel with bristles attached to it to clean up the concrete. Because my first load of concrete was a little dry, it ended up exposing a lot of gravel and aggregate in the top. However, this was the look I was going for, and it turned out exactly how I wanted.
All right, nerds, the time has now come. The top is cured, we completed the base, now let's put them together.
To hold the top and bottom together, I used construction adhesive, specifically liquid nails. Apply a thin line to any of your bonding surfaces. Line up the top and bottom, set it on, and all you have to do is wait for the construction adhesive to cure. Congratulations, nerds, you're done.
All right, we put some adhesive on it. The top and bottom are now set. Let's take a look and see how it turned out.
Well, it takes my breath away.
Project's done. Let me know in the comments section how yours turned out. Well, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. If you have any friends, family, or even some wood nerds that you know that might like the video, please share. Otherwise, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.